It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off, it's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from Peyton. It's just gonna solidify everything for Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
SKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores, you're gonna be able to find these shots true.
Inu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes the Nabla, immediately goes back to fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2, 3, so back and forth.
Welcome in, everybody. We have a fantastic match for you today here in the EU Open Division of CGL. It is EMC Chimera versus INVADERS. Both these teams already had a match or 2, in the case of Chimera, under their belt in this brand new season here in CGL. So, honestly, a lot on the line here, plenty to prove the further and further we get into the season. It is Rags and Spectron bringing you all the action here today. Spec, how are we feeling about this matchup here?
Oh, good. I mean, it's my first CGL game of Season 17, and EMC Chimera are plenty of players that I'm aware of that have played plenty of CGL seasons before. INVADERS, not quite the same, so we've got a little bit of old versus the new, at least from my perspective. Obviously, we've had a hotfix just yesterday come through, still new patch to play on, and while we don't have access to the 5 new heroes in CGL just yet, then that will all be coming through in week number 3. So, shake-up after shake-up after shake-up in these first couple weeks of play. These teams' ability to adapt, to improvise, that's what's being tested at the present moment, and I, for one, find that absolutely electrifying. I mean, currently, right, with mostly, we say, Domina, maybe Jetpack Cat being played in organized play, then I think those could really make huge changes. But for now, it seems like most teams are sticking with the Zarya and the Vendetta that kind of dominated the last patch.
Yeah, honestly, despite a couple minor changes that Vendetta has seen, you know, a little bit nerf here and there, slowly picking away at her kit, at her numbers, still very dominant at all levels of play here, especially when you see the synergized play coming from some of these higher division teams here. So I'm really curious to see, you know, how the shakeups come in with that, whether we stick with that Zarya Vendetta all the way through, or if we see some variations. You know, there are answers to it. She is dominant, but it is, of course, not an unbeatable composition here. On terms of the teams themselves, Chimera are coming at this 2-3-0 victories already here. INVADERS, I believe they only played 1 match so far, early in the season, of course, as it is, but I believe that was a 3-0 loss. So they have a lot of ground to make up, so there is plenty of room to come. Chimera, of course, have quite a lot of double duty they're pulling here, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, more practice is nice, right? Obviously, GM and OpenSea, you're allowed to play on both. There's nothing stopping you. And if you want to play more Overwatch in a week, it gives the opportunity to do so. I know some teams can use CGL as essentially like a guaranteed scrim block in a week, and this way you just get twice as much. Obviously, maybe you get some closer competition in Grandmaster if you find yourself needing to compete there. But in OpenSea, obviously, you get a chance to play against some of the strongest teams, at least in EMEA. Some of Face It Master teams and players found their way down here to our quaint little tournament. And of course, the prize pool as well. I believe $300 for first place. So plenty of reasons to pull double duty if you've got the time for it and the will to put that much time into Overwatch.
No doubt, but let's narrow our scope from the broader picture to exactly what we're looking at here today, folks. The first map in the series is going to be Nepal. That much is guaranteed here. Pretty much set in stone. No one needs to worry about choosing that, but further we get into the series here, it'll be the losers of the previous map will get to choose the next one. And of course, which angle they want to deal with first here. So looking at our bans coming out the gate, it is INVADERS' first chance to get somebody off the field, out of their opponents and their own hands here. I mean, we've seen teams, unless they want to run the Vendetta, she's kind of been an instant ban for these teams that don't feel as comfortable playing that very aggressive, very dominant style here. But if you both want to run that, of course, you really want to keep that in play, but it's going to be a Mercy ban first. So I'm going to call that a support protection ban there from Invaders.
I mean, it's still annoying if an enemy team has like a Mercy Soge and just wants to stay there playing like excessive shooting, especially if you think the enemy team has like a hyper carry DPS that you want to target ban. It's not just a support protect, but I think you are right. I think it is just at the end of the day, like you want to keep your backline alive. You probably want to play Kiri Lucio. Just keeping it standard. Ban on the other things, obviously, from Chimera, only DPS and tank allowed. Zarya, Detta, Sojourn. Very likely one of the three going to be targeted. See which one it is.
Yeah, I mean, on Nepal especially, you do have a lot of, whether it's Village or, of course, on Sanctum, you've got a lot of enclosed spaces there. The Zarya ban comes through. Honestly, I love to see a ban come through onto the, dominant strategy right here. I think that really opens things up. If you want to run Ramatra instead, that really provides a level of flexibility to you. Don't have to worry about the bubbles, the beams, and, of course, the incredible enabling that she does for that Vendetta, who will still be available to both these squads here, but just a little bit more fragile, a bit more vulnerable, a bit more diveable, or just withstandable on your roster here. But looking at the rosters themselves, for EMC Chimera, we've seen a lot from these players already. Saikoka and Ton Mikita for your DPS line, Ikaj as your tank, and DBRX and Octo rounding out your support line.
Yeah, Saikoka, Ton Mikita, Ikaj, I've seen together for absolute donkey's years. DBRX and Octo have been in and out as far as I recall from Invaders. I think I've cast Rexa in Face It, but I might be even misremembering. Again, a little bit more unknown to us, but would love to see what they've got in mind once they get into the lobby, because I think fresh faces, fresh blood in CGL always make this tournament a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, especially if they've got some history that just isn't, presenting itself here in CGL so far. We're imagining that these players do at least have a good amount of knowledge of each other, at least. They do have some synergy they've been working on. If they're coming at it from Face It, they certainly do know their stuff. So I'm really excited to see them take it to what has already proven to be such a strong team in EMC Chimera. So, of course, we're always hoping for a close match here, folks. We'd love to see this go as far as possible. But first here on Nepal, yeah, we are heading into Sanctum first. We are all indoors here. We have plenty of environmental possibilities. Of course, not access to the cat just yet, so do not count on that. Expect to see the Lucio boops if ever there's going to be a chance for that. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Spec. I think seeing the, Kiri Lucio is kind of going to be the name of the game. Now here, you don't actually, it's not as, necessary on Sanctum here as it is, say, on, oh goodness, the Shrine outside, or on the, on Village. But, of course, both these teams still hovering it right now out the gate. Rexer on this Ramatra. I'm expecting that to stick. The Hog, yeah, I'm expecting this, however, for Ikaj. We've seen favor this Orisa whenever they get the chance.
Yeah, no, the Sim TP being sent out to spawn by Saikoka. Ton tries to go for a little bit late, so it's going to be a modicum of lead here for Chimera. Extended shooting, what you're looking for with the Orisa. Rexa eventually will have to try and find value off these Nemesis forms, otherwise the Orisa's gold and outvalue. EMC Chimera, a small compositional advantage, I believe, but Invaders have plenty of opportunities, especially in the ult fight.
Tank aside, these are mirror compositions coming out here from these two squads here. Already taking control are the side of Chimera here on this mild high ground on the side round. The point has been unlocked, so someone could easily head over to and start providing pressure onto it. But Invaders are being a little bit bundled back in towards that initial rune through that choke point there. Pushing forward, Rexer trying to provide some ground here, but Mavixi and Fighter teaming up to clean up Saikoka and Tomika. That is going to be the DPS line of Invaders completely, or rather from EMC Chimera, completely taken down here. Invaders have done an excellent job of forcing the tank back and causing everyone else to crumble against the scrutiny. However, Chimera have already gotten first tag of the objective.
Ikaj gets his one, and losing Rexer is an awkward one. Obviously, first cap for Chimera, and with no tank, you can't take the space that you necessarily need to contest the objective, so it's still ticking up in favor of Chimera. Doesn't matter how many kills Invaders get, as long as they can't find that flip.
Yeah, they're still trying to maintain some point presence here. Chimera still putting their toes on it just to keep this ticking up longer and longer here. We're reaching well past a third of control already. Now with Rexer back in the fight, that should be the chance to clinch this one out, and it is. Now, Invaders need to find a close hold here, but Chimera are almost all the way back into this room, and they don't have the full roster for Invaders right out with them. You do have Tana on this outside angle, trying to find a sneaky pulse bomb here, but Ikad, if you keep this tank up, you can make a lot of progress here with this Orisa.
Indeed. Rex are going to have to back up here. This is hyper aggression. He doesn't have the HP for this, and the Terror Surge confirms the elimination. 25% fighter, though. There's nothing you can do with an OC that close, and so Invaders, again, battle back. Flip should be able to be found from EMC Chimera, and especially with this Kitsune Rush, their ability to fight the choke is going to be unmatched. Pulse gets his one. Tono trying to clutch this out.
Yeah, they're still going for the flip here. Chimera need to find some. They have enough bodies on the objective just to flip it back. So control ticking up once again for the side of the team in blue. Tommy gonna need to stay alive to keep this overclock online here. Rexer has the annihilation ready to go. With the sound barrier, that should be just the go button alongside the Kitsune Rush. So Invaders hard committing to this engagement. Both support ults already spent so far. Mavixi falling down the second that overhealth deteriorates. And now Chimera are the ones to layer those ultimates one after another. And we usually see that kind of is the most effective strategy to keep yourself alive and sustain the longer these fights go on. Psychoka gets a bit of a boot there. Possessive proving themselves to be not easily taken down. Octo eventually cleans up, gets revenge for that fallen teammate.
Yeah, it's still a bit awkward, though. Your Tracer not being here means that a lot of early space, in theory, should be going to Tona, and it means that EMC Chimera don't play choke, so they back up. They play point angles, which they figure is better for their comp, and for good reason. Obviously, Rexer playing the mirror here. Both teams pretty skint in terms of the check marks. Sakoka's pulse bomb could be everything, though.
Ikaj getting spotted out. That javelin from Rexer might push back that tank just a little bit longer here. But again, the rest of the squad from Chimera is putting full control over all angles of attack here. Rexer falling down as the rest of the squad appears for Chimera. Invaders just crumble one by one. And without that tank to anchor around, there's no more bodies left to touch the point. And yeah, with nary an overtime to speak of, EMC Chimera will clinch this one out 100-41, I believe.
Yeah, I think they got so much success off of getting that first cap, because the actual fights, it felt like, were more 50-50, especially with Invaders getting a bit of a lead in that opening one. But because they just have control of the objective much easier, then Ton Makita and Ikad, especially on longer shooting lines, are just outvaluing their counterparts, in my opinion. And because of that, and the positional advantage you get guaranteed, then EMC Chimera up 1-0. Invaders, I think, going to be kicking themselves by giving over a free flip. And so here are going to be sticking to the objective a little bit harder, one would assume, but the swap to the D room, in fact, implies the opposite. Wider angles to be taken, maybe some backline pressure to attempt to be leveraged. Again, SimTP's out from both sides.
Yeah, once again, though, that exact same composition apart from the tanks here. Rexer trying to provide something of an answer to the incredible sustain pull that Ikaj has been operating with so far with Chimeras. You can really easily outpace that Orisa, and we're seeing that already, having to spend all those cooldowns just to stay alive and keep the team kicking just behind you here. Ton Mikita goes a little bit wide with that shot. Damage coming through here for the Sojourn, and a first kill comes through. That is going to be Ikaj taking Mavixi down. Fighter falling soon thereafter, and EMC Chimera, again, they just had to bend a little bit, but they far from broke. Cleaning up the side of Invaders here. That's going to be a brutal stagger onto Rexer's Baby Diva.
Oh, it's going to take so much time off the bank. They're continuing to stagger. They allowed the remake. Ton Makita's dead as well. This is a bit funky fresh here. Chimera still got opportunities in this fight. They've got HP advantage on their tank. No cleanse active. Ikaj gets one, trades his life for it. EMC Chimera, again, control of the point. Makes it so much easier for them to play a little bit more softly. They're bleeding resources. They can't continue doing this forever.
No, without your tank, and Ikaj has a bit of a long walk back here. Orisa far from the quickest tank in the roster. So that is going to be a flip coming through. So it might have been a bit of an overstep by not cleaning up that Baby Diva, allowing her to get back into the mech for Rexer there. So EMC Chimera now have to find their way back to the point, but of course they immediately do so. Once Ikaj is back in the fray, the rest of the squad is more than happy to make things work here.
Ooh.
Tana, no, that health pack is not for you. Psychoka taking down the opposition as both of those Tracers duel it out on the flank, and the rest of Invaders have to beat a hasty retreat. Oh, they're caught in a small room here alongside Psychoka's Tracer, and the rest of Chimera following in suit. Yeah, it's a pretty brutal retake.
Like, one of the things that Sokoka is going to be very happy about in this current patch is that, A, you can take both your good perks now. You can get both reloads on melee and health packs. And B, they've shrunk the spread back on your gun, and so it makes it a little bit easier to secure these long-range final blows, as Sokoka currently demonstrates for us. Yeah, the damage to tanks is a little bit lower, but you're much more consistent now. The hero feels so much stronger, and after one of the Tracer's rare rough patches, it feels like she's right back in fighting form. We've seen dominance so far from the blue side, FDPS. Tona on the back foot, and now at 80%, Invaders running out of opportunities here, running out of runway, in fact. They need this fight, and what an opening find.
No, that is exactly what you need to kick things off here, especially with so many ultimates available for both of these squads here. Without Sokoka's ability to hold down those flank positions here, it's going to be both rushes coming through. Possessive, though, immediately eats it as Ekash powers forward, cleaning up two. We are trading body for body here, and it is Ekash on this Orisa, lighting up the kill feed, cleaning up all bodies from Invaders.
Oh, Sokoka!
Taken. That is a massive stomp kill onto Sokoka, but it's not going to matter in the end as Rexer gets DMA'd. Now this team has to be very conscious again as Baby Diva. That is exactly the cleanup you need to see. Fighter overclock kill onto Tomikata. I don't know if it's going to matter at the end of the day though. Tana just desperate to find an answer back. The sound barrier comes through. Mavixi is here. That overhealth for the rest of the squad, keeping them alive. Rexer back on the wrecking ball. Is it going to be in enough time here? Draining one by one. Possessive and DBRX both falling down. Arisa's, or rather, Kiriko's gone from this fight. Rexer is back on the objective. This wrecking ball cleans up Octo. Mavixi and Tona are the ones to fall, and it is going to be just that wrecking ball left alive on the objective. EMC Chimera all healthy and kicking, and that with a crazy final fight. Every wall oh my goodness, can't even speak at this time here, but the exact opposite of last round where there was no overtime to speak of. This one, we had it in spades. Ekash really the hero of that map, but the full squad of Chimera clean things up.
Indeed. Last fight got a little bit more awkward than it needed to be. Both DPS giving up opening kills. At the end of the day, Ekash is able to outvalue on the Orisa. Absolutely insurmountable, an absolute bastion of defense. Because that EMC Chimera able to take map number 1. And remember, hit CGL, the first map is always selected by us, by Big CGL, by Headrammer himself. After that, I believe it's a loser's choice, loser's ban. And so Invaders do have a bit of agency now in choosing how they might want to approach this next point, because the Orisa was a problem for them. I think we can definitely agree with that. Maybe they banned that out, but are they still worried about, for example, Ekash going on to a March, or do they want to maybe try and lean into something where they can play their more mobile hit picks? Because Rexer obviously wanted to play the Diva, obviously didn't work out, but if you look towards a map, I don't know, they'll pull off the top of my head, but like an Umbani, for example, like a Watchpoint Gibraltar with that verticality, then you might be able to get more useful, a more preferential scenario for you to be able to play. So that's what I'd be thinking about if I were Invaders. But of course, they've got plenty of time to deliberate.
Yeah, it was the Zarya banned first here from Chimera, so obviously knowing that that can be a bit of a weak spot for that Orisa that Ekash so clearly it favors. We'll see if Invaders, they want to answer back. That Zarya ban is now one and done for Chimera. So if that's something Invaders want to rock out with, again, as we've said, they're new to CGL, this team, so we don't exactly know where they're most comfortable, what comps they feel, best at countering. So if they want to keep running that Zarya, they will have the chance to do so for the rest of this series here. Of course, they could ban it themselves if that is, again, something that they really would not like to run with here. But the fact that we didn't see, any of the Zarya-enabled DPS picks really does indicate to me that's still kind of a wide open question. That's very much a possibility for the rest of the series here.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams won't play the, Deta, for example, without a Zarya. They find it really hard to find solo engages. I think it makes a lot more pressure on the Deta to find the value rather than to just look for incredibly strong scenarios for engages. So you need to be a really strong player, like a Turbo Smooth, for example, maybe a Rocket, in order to play it with a Hazard, with a Diva. If you're just playing the character because they're meta, then you'll probably just stick to the Zarya. And so I'm not crazy surprised we don't see it, at least yet.
Yeah, but heading into our second map, we already know where we're heading. It's going to be Circuit Royale for our next one in the series here. Yet get to see, of course, our lovely poolside cam here. So yeah, we are slowing things down here for sure on our escort map coming through. So yeah, very curious to see what the tempo of gameplay continues to be. You could still, if you want to keep running this Orisa composition here from Chimera, if again you're allowed to, because the bans will determine exactly what is, left in your roster here. But you certainly could do that on the offense. On the defense, I think Orisa has her place, but you really want to have something a bit more protective, a bit more long range capable than Orisa has the chance. She can, of course, run that, but I think she is not the meta pick, the standard on Circuit Royale. Of course, historically it's been Sigma, but honestly, in recent days, we've even seen some teams run Diva comps all the way through on offense and even sometimes on defense, just to have that access, that verticality, which is such an oppressive force on that second point.
I think that when Domina is allowed to play, we're producing a lot more of her. I think her ability to frontline trade is pretty diabolical, right? You can stable yourself with a damaging cooldown. That's pretty convenient. But no, I think the general approach to the map for a while now has basically just been lock ram, play some like speed comp, and overwhelm. Sigma is very powerful when you allow him to sit on high grounds and free shoot you. If you just run at him, though, he can be punished very, very easily. And so having that large weakness means that teams shift towards the Ramacha, which is less strong in its kind of peak, but also has much, much higher troughs, right? It's much harder to punish in any standard way. But I will say, again, in discussion, talking about when these next heroes come up, when I cast the I think Czechia Iceland show match for World Cup, people were just using Jetpack Cat to fly Mercy boosted Bastions around and just wide swing you, and it's goofy as hell. And I think that really might be the future of the map.
It certainly could be, but unfortunately we'll have to wait for next week to get to see that here in CGL. The first ban, though, from Invaders, they found Ikazu's Orisa needlessly oppressive, so that is going to be off the table, and Chimera will answer by banning out the Widow. Alright, so if you want to have your long-range druthers here, it's going to be either on the Ashe or the Hanzo. I mean, you can easily still run the Sojourn here pretty comfortably. She has a lot of flexibility at running both up close and good distance damage coming through. Or, again, Freya does see some play here on Circuit Royale where she doesn't on a lot of different map types. She has a great amount of flexibility in dealing with the wide open skybox of points A and B, while also providing a decent amount of ground capability as well. Incredible DPS from that crossbow. So Widowmaker does open things up here for the rest of the DPS squad being banned.
I think Widow ban is pretty standard on this map. It's not actually a particularly common choice anymore. Obviously, when we first started watching the map and it was, Bapilari, or Bapzen, in fact, at the time, Hanzo Widow, then Widow bans were a lot more common. Because Widow was a lot more common. You were playing more around the pick, you were playing more around the frontline trade. Again, as the game developed to be faster and people kind of knew which sideline she'd be on, she became a lot less oppressive just because you don't really have any options for angles. You're on main, you're waiting for somebody to peek you. If they just don't, then you get no value. And so I think Soj became a lot more common when we're playing faster comps, when we are on, for example, Ryan, when we're on Ramatra. And if you want to play something static, with the double flex backline, then generally you see Ashe Freya, as you mentioned, a possibility. But generally she isn't played. She's got kind of weak matchups into other hit scans due to how often she's in the air, basically, floating like a blimp. And especially with double bolt not being able to 2-tap 250 to the body anymore, then I don't expect to see her, but I wouldn't be surprised either.
Right now, the defense seems to be trending that way. It is Tona here on that Freya and Fighter on this Sojourn. No surprise that is not a change from the previous map here. Rexer is going to stick strong on the Sigma, so yeah, trying to play this a bit slower, much more poke-related composition. Mavixi deciding what we want to do in spawn. It's going to be the Papayari. All right, so Spectreon, you pointed out that this is an older comp, but I guess it checks out for Invaders here. We'll see if they're able to withstand the pressure, and if EMC Chimera want to run this exact same, version of this on offense. It looks as though Saikoka might be favoring the Genji instead, and Octo on this Wuyong. I really like this for an offensive version of this composition.
The Invaders style of play is very much a skill check composition, essentially. You wait for somebody to peek you, you have raw damage stopping you back. But if Saikoka is able to scale, if you're able to get any sort of space on the map, then they're going to fall like a house of cards. So very important for Invaders that they stop EMC Chimera from getting away with anything, because you give them an inch and they will take a mile.
I know that Ikaj is here on this Sigma, but honestly, I'm getting a lot of vibes of Orisa from this tank already here. Ikaj very much up in the face of Invaders' defense already. EMC Chimera pushing forwards already on the bridge, and Chimera are just trying to stay, or rather, Invaders just trying to stay alive here. No, Chimera, my goodness, I'm messing myself up already. It is Chimera on the bridge, forcing the enemy back here so far. Rexer falling, though, does cause the rest of the team to have to bundle themselves back behind this first corner. And Psychoka on this Genji is just looking for those lower health targets at this point. But Chimera, they've got control already of the cart, pushing forward very close towards that first point already here. Invaders now, they do have their tank back in the fight. We'll see if they're able to hold this one down.
Yeah, this is a notorious point to attack. But it does mean that it's only Rexer who's touching the point, so the focus buy on the Sigma could be ankle breaking. E-Catch over the one losing out their HP trade so far.
That is a well-timed kinetic grasp, but it's not quite enough overhealth to continue on without some decent support from the squad. DBRX at the expense of their own life, keeping the rest of the squad alive. The window comes down, but that high ground shot there from Fighter is absolutely crucial to take down the opposing Baptiste. Invaders, they only have lost Tona so far in this fight. EMC Chimera dangerously low health bars. Ikash falling down. That's got to spell the end of this offensive push here. And what a long run back it is for the offense when they have not fully capped point A here. But that is a Ebola shot onto Fighter. Possessive falling down as well. And it looks as though EMC Chimera might have just clinched this one out. They fully cap, and that is going to be 4 minutes 30 in the time bank.
Yeah, nice bowler from Tom Makita. Psychoka able to follow up with the dash. It doesn't really matter that the kills aren't going your way. There's simply no damage pressure in the world that's enough to stop EMC Chimera from at least taking a bout to the hairpin. Obviously, hands, rock, expended from E-Cash. We are so close to the Goritic Flux, and the Dragon Blade, perfect complement to try and finish off some final blows.
Chimera now rotating around towards the secondary staging position here. The Flux comes up, catches two. That is going to be one devastated Sigma. Octo finding the pick-off finish onto Rexer, and Invaders now have to hurry back towards the safety of the spawn doors here. Plenty of ults to spend, but they are saving those for a rainier day than this. EMC Chimera spending just that Flux, and of course, in the previous fight, that Bola shot is enough to keep them surging forward here. Now onto the high ground. This is the best place for the offense to be.
Yeah, I think EMC Chimera, it actually feels like E-Catch is losing the Sigma trade a lot of the time, but they're playing their positioning so well that it doesn't matter that in the raw resource trade, you're not doing so fantastic. Invaders, plenty of tools. They should be able to retake with Flux, with Clock. They need to start committing ults and doing it now.
Rexer falling low, goes for that Flux, catches just a couple, but not actually enough to gain any ground for it. Psychoka's Blade cleans up two bodies and the pylon while we're at it, and that is going to shut things down. Invaders spent so heavily in that fight, and for no ground regain whatsoever. Another 430 in the bank once again for EMC Chimera's offense.
Yeah, Invaders are so late to go for anything proactive here that by the time they're beginning to press their buttons, then Psychoka's already scaled backline with a Bubble Blade. Kind of hard to not find value, especially into this comp, and so for him, easy conversions. Invaders on the Echo now from Tona does help you with the front line trade more than comparable FDPS. Your 1v1 with the Genji, though, kind of sucks. You really struggling to hit scan. We see now Tona kind of struggling to get too involved.
Yeah, DBRX has this window ready to go, but so does the Vixie on the other side of things here. Fighters overclock rolling on the high ground, but already answered for it. Tom Mikino with those bolts from the crossbow cleans up that ulting Sojourn. And the rest of the squad of EMC Chimera continue rolling. This cart has not stopped moving here. So Coco does fall down. That beam cleaning up the Genji. Baton making out another Bola shot coming through. Don't know if we found a ton of value for it here. On the outside, you do have Invaders kind of split up right now. You have to worry about Vixie currently in your backline, but not too much of a problem when the rest of the squad is directly in front of you. And that is Ikaj once again with the Flux here. Losing Rexer puts Invaders in such a tough spot going forward. The window out from both these Baptistes, both of them falling in turn. Losing Possessive, that is all healing gone from the side of Invaders here. And EMC Chimera are just doing their best to hold on to the point, but now they have lost Ikaj. That has got to spell a retreat here.
Yeah, Psychoka doing the Lord's work in the backline there, but unfortunately, simply not enough. The defender sightlines are brutal. They're absolutely brutal on attacking into it. If you're not absolutely pristine, well, you get punished for it. Exactly what we see. Invaders given some additional time. They'll have a Captive Sun at least to try and defend here. Psychoka playing towards the Blade. That Bubble Blade combo that cracked open second point could now be used to complete the map as long as they have the time to charge it up. You'll note Fighter going to be on the Cassidy now, so better Jules into Sakoka, into Ton Makita. A bit worse consistency though.
Ikaj a bit alone on the high ground here. That is going to be Tidal Blast expended onto the tank just to keep him alive here. Desperately on this high ground. You have to play so carefully. Once you go up, you might not come down in a safe manner here. Rexer forcing, yep, that is going to be Ikaj falling, and continuing to end off the edge of the cliff here. We're down to 2 minutes here for EMC Chimera. They have not made much progress here through point C.
It's really not the end of the world for them. They come into that fight with no ultimate, so their opponent has one. Their opponent uses their ultimate, and you charge into some of your own. I didn't realize we HX bubble? I didn't see Van value, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it was onto Ikaj just to keep the tank alive, but yeah, not really the best value you'd expect there. But finally, the blade comes out, and yeah, without that Tidal Blast, yeah, I'm really starting to see the cracks in the offense here for EMC Chimera. Spending ults and not getting a ton of value for it here with the minute 30 to go.
Again, your opponent's are spending 2 though, so it's, again, you're still relatively comfortable. Flux is going to be unanswered. Possessive is straight up dead. DBRX is going to have windowed at power position. I think EMC Chimera, again, not seeing much momentum on their side at the present, but by no means we should count them out just yet.
No, still plenty of ground to work with here. A high ground window from DBRX. EMC Chimera cleaning up as best as they can, but still has to play so much against the pressure of this opposing window from the high ground here. The defense, too, can play at that game here. EMC Chimera now are down body after body here, and Rexer on the Sriracha just trying to clean up those stragglers. Yeah, it's honestly been trading blow for blow here in terms of ultimates, but we do have just Flux coming in this last one alongside Fighters. Deadeye ready to go.
Yeah, you'll take Flux versus Deadeye any day of the weekend. To complement that, you also have the Bob Tom Makita. If they're able to get on the long sideline, they'll be able to Bob to stall the cart, to take an additional angle. This is really tricky, which is why we see Invaders pushed up. They want to deny that by all means necessary, but giving up this space might just cost them the map.
The Flux needs to be big here. If you can lock up Rex or any of these squishy targets, if you can clean up that path, it goes for nothing. That is a massive loss of their only ultimate they had ready to go. But Ton Mikita about to have this Bob ready. That is going to be deployables cleaned up on either side of this fight. We are down to 5 seconds here for EMC Chimera's offense, but it looks as though only the Bob is going to be alive on the objective here. Ton Mikita cleaned up by this Ramatra out from Rexer. Invaders hold strong on point C. It was a close thing. That cart got so close to full capping here, but they have gotten themselves a win condition, but still quite a distance to go to make it a reality.
Yeah, I mean, pretty unpleasant to spend your entire offense ult cycling until you get Flux and then proceed to Coluge Flux. Not fantastic. Ekash, not going to be feeling fantastic about it, but at the end of the workday, it's still good distance, right? 91 meters you've accrued. Invaders going to have to equalize that on their own attack, and I think EMC Chimera's first and second points were pretty definitive. So Invaders an uphill battle, maybe things get a little bit easier once they get towards the end of the map. See how things begin to work out, though, as Sakoka flirting with the Tracer on the defense. I'm not quite sure she's fantastic on first point. You kind of have nowhere to stand at all. So we'll see how things work out as they are committing to it.
Yeah, it's a Zarya pick so far for the offense. That could change at a moment's notice for the next 20 seconds here. But EMC Chimera, I fully agree. I don't know where this Tracer is going to be operating out of here. Ton Mikita on this Ashe does make some sense, at least from what we got to see on the offense. I think Ashe does have a bit of a better job. Defensively, especially on point A, there's tons of high ground and cover from which to work. If you are the Ashe just sledding around, you're just finding a nice little time.
Well, with Ashe, you don't need to reposition when you're defensive, so it doesn't matter that you have like lesser mobility than the Sojourn, than the Freya, which is a lot of the reason you see it. Obviously, having that slower ADS when you're peaking as well is a lot safer when you are guaranteed a power position, which you don't always have on the attack. So some of the reasons we see Ashe here. You'll notice that no Ashe on the defenders means you can't dynamite the corner. It's going to make punishing that space a lot harder.
Spider here on this Sojourn needs to come up big, but Tona in the skybox is going to be the immediate target here for Ton Mikita. Ikash already taking so much damage here, just able to get healed up on this high ground. But again, without that car presence, this is the first choke point where you really need to be able to hold things down here. We saw on their offense, Chimera were so able to blast through this initial choke. Will they be able to do so on the defense? It looks as though Invaders are going through and under this bridge already. Rexer's Ramatra holding things down here, but EMC Chimera have now bent to the point of snapping back here. That is going to be a cleanup onto both Rexer and Mavixi. Tona falling soon thereafter. EMC Chimera will finally be holding on this first corner.
Yeah, AMC Chimera just allowing Rexer to walk the card that far is really just giving him the rope to hang himself with. Just gives the entire enemy team angles on him. And I wasn't a huge fan of this trace, but Sakoka's been making it work. Mostly existing onside space, still able to follow up a lot of these kills set up by Ton Mikita. Because of that, minute 20, now 30, almost off the bank. Window, Pulse Storm going to be first check marks online. The duplicate, though, on the other side of things, has to have you a little bit worried.
Yeah, Tona just needs to stay a little bit live long enough to make that come through, but EMC Chimera are very conscious of this attempted egress onto the high ground. It is going to be Rexer forcing Ikash back and down. That Flux just about ready. The Pulse Bomb only takes down that Mortality Field, but so much damage coming through. It's like Sakoka does fall in turn, though. Tona does in fact have this copy online, but honestly not even going to need it here, as the neutral fight is all that was necessary for Invaders to clean up this offense.
It's great clear coming through onto Sakoka, who just gets absolutely flattened. You might be able to go for a touch here, but Invaders do all they can to deny it. Look how forward they are, pushed up on the staircase. Sakoka would have to go first. If you did manage to finish that off, though, you will be able to go with 4 check marks.
Yeah, that is going to be the Tidal Blast here onto that Tracer, and the Flux alongside as well. Massive commit for EMC Chimera's defense. Ton Mikita cleaning up too, though, so that is going to be them. It looks like they're going to hold here. That's an excellent spend, but of course that is going to be Invaders holding on to the lion's share of their ultimates in this next fight. But of course, it's a massive run back for the offense, and now EMC Chimera can finally set up once again. This is the best spot for them to be in on point A so far.
Yeah, this is a little bit easier to position your Tracer, in my opinion. Much easier to position your Ashe. Obviously, you've got the Bob, which has great opportunities here. You need to look to use it on tempo, though, because if your opponents just start pressing buttons, eventually you'll get run out by sheer firepower. So we're in a bit of a timer here. EMC Chimera got to be watching that clock.
Yeah, 4 checks already here for Invaders. Rexer, the longer this fight goes on, can easily hold it down with Annihilation. The window out first from Possessive, forcing everyone for EMC Chimera back, but there's really no one to benefit from it at this range here. Finally, Tona does fall down to provide some damage through that window, but the Bob coming through locks things down on the objective. Rexer's Annihilation goes for it, but has to back away from that Bob, and so much pressure forces that ult to end much earlier than you would love to see here. That is going to be a massive Captive Sun here from Mavixi, cleaning up 2 on the back end of it, so that might be just the thing to push them over the finish line, but the Immortality Field allowing EMC Chimera to stay alive for a bit longer than you'd certainly like for the offense. Invaders, though, have the numbers on the point. Rexer alive, that might be just the thing to anchor it. Ikash falling dangerously low, so tough to get healed up, especially as Octo's only just getting back now. It looks as though Invaders will finally do it. Oh, but they're back in EMC Chimera, continuing the fight. Ton Mikita from the high ground, cleaning up 2 with the headshots. That is going to be a massive hold, and if Tona falls, that's it for the Invaders. Their offense falling to nothing. So much promise, so much coming into that last fight. And all of it, where did it go? It went the way of the wind here. That is Chimera holding a point A full hold on Circuit Royale, going up 2-0 in the series.
Incredibly sloppy fight there, to be honest, from Invaders. We window too shallow. We don't sync it up with the full team swing, so it doesn't really do much other than force people into the corner. We then clock on an even more shallow angle. So again, the people who are hiding in the corner, who are already hiding from the window, just now hiding from another ultimate that isn't punishing them whatsoever. We go for the Captive Sun. That does find value. That is nice. But obviously our own Annihilation is forced back by just the Bob. I feel like if we just committed to using Annihilation first, hard trading tank line, we probably win that out. But instead we choose to open with the window. And because of that, at the end of the day, EMC Chimera are just able to use their defensive positioning mostly, just to sit down, keep shooting you, not really get shot themselves. And because that 2-0 up, they've got to be feeling fantastic about that. Because again, it was Invaders map pick, Invaders first ban. and they still got shut out.
Yeah, that is certainly a tough spot to be in here. It honestly looked as though the fight was going to go their way before that last one, but as you say, Spectron, it just kind of got away from the further they got into it. They spent, you know, the wrong things in the wrong places and just were not able to lock things down. The defense out from Chimera, even stronger than their offense, which, you know, was really very comfortable sailing through points A and B. But now, potential final map in the series here. Invaders will decide where to take us next, but this is their last chance to do so if they want to make this one work. If it's going to be a reverse sweep, this is their last chance. There's a last time to actually take us where they want to go, because even if they win this next one, it's Chimera's choice coming through towards the end. So Chimera got to be feeling pretty good, especially knowing that they'll have the Orisa available to them wherever we head next. Of course, Sigma, especially when you're both running it, feels kind of the name of the game here on Circuit Royale, but even when we got to see the Ramatra play from Invaders, they just were not able to lock it down offensively. I think they had a lot better showing for that Ramatra on defense, on point C, but yeah, just not able to clean up at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think we'll have to find out about whether they will be able to finally get one over their opposition, or whether it's going to be a quick and easy 3-0 for EMC Chimera. But we're going to have to do that after this break. So come back in 2 minutes or so, and we'll have all the action for you.
Lots of love. Love. Got lots of love. Love.
Welcome back, folks. It is map 3 between EMC Chimera and Invaders, and honestly, Chimera are in full control of the series here. Invaders have their second chance to take us to a map of their choosing. How they want to do it remains to be seen, because we've seen them in the driver's seat. And it was a bit of a car crash, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I would say much more Richard Hammond than Lewis Hamilton in terms of the skills behind the wheel so far. We're going for a hard U-turn in terms of the momentum. We go from an entirely linear map, right, a payload based in Circuit Royale, towards Surafast, which has many angles, much more focused about your ability to set up and take fights, rather than just like hoping your tank can resource trade effectively. So I think this definitely shows a reversal in plan from Invaders. The question is, will EMC Chimera actually be hamstrung by this, or will we see the same success that they've previously demonstrated on Nepal and again on Circuit Royale and take the series in a quick and clean 3-0? That's what my money would have to be on if I were a betting man, but Invaders got to have something in the tank or they won't be taking us here at all.
Yeah, I mean, Ikaj could easily just run things back on that Orisa. Of course, that was banned in the previous map here from Invaders, so that Battle Cattle is fully available for the rest of the series if it continues past this third map here. But Invaders, again, will have the first chance to decide who is off the board coming into this. We've seen so far, you know, even though we've only had Zarya banned from one side, no Zarya so far. Of course, you don't really expect to see her very much on Circuit Royale. It really was the Sigma versus Sigma comp until we had that duel broken by Ramatra from Invaders, but Rexer just not able to find the value into that opposing race. So the Tracer ban is actually a really solid pick here from Invaders. Saikoka just opening things up at all possibilities. Even, and we called this out, even when you wouldn't expect a Tracer to be the most valuable pick here from the squad, Chimera just made it work.
I mean, if you can make Tracer work on Circuit, you can make Tracer work in space, for all I care. Makes absolutely perfect sense to ban it out Zura, which in my opinion is one of our best maps. It's not like Sakoka can't play alternatives, Deta, Venture, Genji, Reaper, all entirely valid here, but it's just a little bit harder. And Mercy ban we see for the second time today, actually. I think this is the EMC Chimera kind of throwing their hands up and missing. They don't have any things they particularly want to ban. Nothing's even put that much fear into them, right? I mean, they're going to be playing probably Lucy Kiri, so just same as their opposition. Any tank pick they have, they probably also want to be able to play on Ikaj, because he has, again, been really winning out that tank trade, it feels like, when given the opportunity to. And honestly, again, a DPS ban, so what do you ban?
It feels a little bit like a mental game here, considering Invaders banned Mercy in the first map of the series, and now this is, I mean, if I'm going to read the tea leaves here, it feels as though Chimera sort of signifying that, yeah, they're not really concerned about what they are or are not allowed to play. Despite not having the Tracer, the rest of the squad feels like they can handle this admirably. And if you're going to ban Mercy the first map, we're just going to stunt in you a little bit by banning her for this third map. And again, if Chimera have their druthers, the last one here. So board's kind of wide open for these squads. The Tracer, who, as you say, Spectron, of course, really is usually unleashed on Saravasa. The Sojourn Genji really feels like the natural progression here, considering that, you know, plays almost identically to how you want to play that Sojourn Tracer. We don't see Tracer Genji as much these days as we used to, of course, in the early days of Overwatch here. But yeah, this composition from EMC Chimera, if Ikaj sticks on this Wrecking Ball, which we haven't seen a ton of, certainly none this series at least, Rex are also hovering under the side, so this might be something. No, it's gonna be
no ball for Ikaj. Boring as hell. Rex are over to the Zarya. They decided no fun allowed. With the Genji versus the Tracer, you spend a lot less time on solo angles. You're spending a lot more time stacked with the support, stacked with your team, playing safer. So for the full 1-to-1, maybe we'd expect a Sombra or a Venture instead. Obviously not going to materialize. Sakoka perfectly comfortable on the Genji, but so far forced out by Tona, who's on Deta and really looking for overheads.
Yeah, first Vendetta and Zarya here from Invaders all series long, so this might be the composition to level things up, to open things and continue this series here. But Tona facing the runaround here from Saikoka, just trying to answer back. And it looks as though, yeah, with Mavixi on the case as well, Invaders will clean up both bodies of that Lucio, but Ikaj falling as well. That is going to spell the death knell for this fight for EMC Chimera. Invaders finally in control once again here. Fighter just cleaning up Ton Mikada, DRX falling. It's a full team wipe. Now coming back into it. Gloves are off here for Ikaj.
Yeah, AK's owns the Zarya. Game plan from EMC Chimera was just to win out tank trade, but 4 people turning for Sakoka. Shows them as public enemy #1, takes him down. They go over to the Venture, like we kind of spoke about before, with Bubbled. You find a lot of value on this hero fighter, though. An opening pick onto Octa means that EMC Chimera are just going to twiddle their thumbs for another 20 seconds or so while the Lucio comes back.
Yeah, it's your fastest run back on the squad for sure, but if you lose somebody else, like your tank, for example, Ikaj just getting caught out a little bit too close to the fire here. Invaders just holding so close. Spawn door scenario. DBRX falling as well. All right, Invaders, it looks like they've unleashed something here on Saravasa so far.
25% left to go. A touch is still possible from Chimera, but they're going to have to pace it. That's why we see them go towards the right side. They have the time to take map control away from Invaders, so they decide to circumvent them entirely. Touch very likely going to be on Sakoka, who's on a third hero now of that Vendetta.
Yeah, it's not going to be a pretty. Finally, Boots on the point here, so overtime has been triggered, but Sakoka getting spotted out. Fighter has been lighting up the kill feed with these railgun shots, spotting out all these angles of approach here from EMC Chimera. And Invaders, I mean, they have really put themselves in control of this map in no uncertain terms.
Yeah, they swap over to the meta, start playing it, and they start winning, oddly enough. If I am EMC Chimera, then I'm really just taking a second to calm down, to take a breath, because this isn't something that's impossible for you to play. But I think you're getting caught out on individual mistakes quite a lot, which Fighter only too happy to punish. And now because of that, Invaders, significant ult advantage, 5 check marks here, heading into this next fight.
Chimera don't have a ton to work with as far as ults go, but of course, if they can just find the right positioning, it's still an uphill battle all the way through. Both rushes laid over the objective of Possessive of finding an early kill onto Sakoka. The sound barrier out from Octo, just trying to keep those 4 bodies alive and kicking, but they're under so much pressure, so much scrutiny. Vixi's sound barrier comes just a little bit later here, and with Invaders spending the rest of their ult bank, with the exception of that grab, they are fully in control of the second point.
Economically, it's good for you. You use 2, they use 4, even after you probably troll the fight within a hyper-aggressive Deta cycle, which could and should be punished. That being said, you still behind. Decide to swap over the DPS, so Sakoka now on the hit scan, top Makita on that flex roll. See if that does him any good as that insta-court and grab.
That is just... I mean, that is certainly one way to clean things up. That is a double overhead cleave for Tona's Vendetta. Yeah, Invaders shut things down. 1 ult is enough if it's a grab at the end of the day. So EMC Chimera, again, last chance to get a foothold on this objective with as quickly as Saravasa's points tick up. But now the slate has been cleaned. They're going to be the ones with the grab online here. So if they can just keep Ikaj and the rest of the squad alive, clean up that bubble. Yeah, Tona falling down. That should be the inroad necessary for the rest of the squad to get on the point. They do have Boots on ground here. Tona Makita might fall, but is able to just sustain the rest of the squad, cleaning up Rex and Mavixi. That is finally a chance for EMC Chimera to get back in control of things and hopefully build up the ult cycling in their favor.
Yeah, Sakoka finally locks in, gets a beautiful double dink, initially onto Mixi. And because of that, set up high ground, Graviton Surge here, surely going to be ginormous. Might not even need, as Tona punished super early on. EMC Chimera need to keep their ult cycle healthy here. So normally where you'd be spending, 2, 3 ults to hold, here they use more than 1, then they know Invaders will eventually take them down. So anything they can get, any free kill like that, worth its weight in gold for them. 50% now ticked up.
Yeah, Fighter very conscious that this objective is not hotly contested at the moment. Tona coming from the top ropes, not expecting that at all, as Chimera just eat a chunk of damage. That's a big grab here from Ikaj, locks up the body of Invaders, who have spent 3 ultimates in this fight for a single on the side of Chimera. That's a bit of a devastating overcommitment here for Invaders. Chimera, I mean, they were struggling to get a foothold once they came into the second point here, but now that they've got their comp right, now that they've got their players on the right roles here, Fighter, though, finding an early pickoff kill, you cannot afford these mistakes for Chimera.
You still do have the ults to try and fight this, and there's not even a touch coming through. That last fight was cataclysmic for Invaders. You get grabbed. I understand you don't have another touch, but you're cooked. You don't have no beat, so you're going to die. It's as simple as that. Instead, we go for Kitsu, Croc, and Sword, and find no value with any of them. That's not a gift. It's pretty ginormous, is how I describe it. EMC Chimera head into this fight with double support ults and a Deadeye. Probably want to open with the Noon, see what happens after that.
Yeah, Psychoka has to find a safe spot from which to operate here, or could easily just bubble up that Cassidy here. But you have to be very conscious of your hobby from the top ropes, as Mavixi and Tona not staying alive here, facing so much pressure, whether it's from that Deadeye. Ooh, that is almost a cleanup kill. Fighter just gets away with his life intact, but scattered to the winds the remainder of the invaders here, as the EMC Chimera get first control of the point here. They'll have a couple of to work with this next one, and invaders just have the one, and going to build up towards these next two if the fight drags on long enough.
The sword from Tom Makita obviously can cleanse through any sort of protection bar the Suzu. So it's going to be probably what they base their fight plan around. The grab will help them survive. 1-for-1 though. Weird as hell.
Sound barrier out here from Octo in the midst of this grab. Rexer falls down. No pressure, no value gained from that ultimate. That is a massive loss here for invaders. Once Chimera have made the swap onto this mirror composition here, it has kind of been open and shut scenario. It is just 1-1 here in terms of points had in their pocket, but that is, yeah, Tommy goes for it, comes all the way back, just stays alive. So invaders, they're gonna have to find some inroads here. They're gonna have a good few ults to work with in this next fight.
Invaders got a bit of a timer here. Their ults are slightly closer, but they have to be scared about the grab. Sword popped, Tona flattened, Fighter trades it out, but Cap comes through.
Yep, that is a full cap there on the point. No one touching for invaders, and that is not a grab here. EMC Chimera did not have one available. They just were not able to get there. They were so focused on that blading vendetta. Not much to be done at the end of the day here, and now we just have a fight over the remains, as the next point has been unlocked. 2 points. That is map point and series point for Chimera.
Yeah, I mean, it's another ultimate thrown in after it's a bit too late with the clock from Fighter. Promptly swap over to the Cassidy. Is it a better choice? It's easier than building up the Soj rail, but it does get punished a hell of a lot more. Psychoka almost does on the walk up, a grab from Ekaj. This time beats it out.
Only really locks up Fighter, and they commit the sound barrier just to keep everyone alive there and get, again, dumpstered for their trouble. Ton Mikado follows, but the rest of Chimera alive and kicking as they light up the kill feed. And invaders, it is just Rexer being staggered out here and just decides to take a bit of a jump into those croc-infested waters, and Chimera are in control of this point. And yeah, they've got quite a few things to play with in this next engage, and invaders, again, on the back foot in terms of ult bank.
I feel like a broken record talking about the ult bank, but it really is the main separating factor between these two teams. Invaders use double support ults, get absolutely diddly squat for their investment. The Graviton on Surge, all they need from Ekaj, and EMC Chimera in the driver's seat now, closing out Surabasa 3-1, more than a possibility, a likelihood.
Yeah, that is a blade from the top ropes as Tona bubbled up, goes big for it, but honestly gets very little but a bunch of damage. So that can certainly clean things up if the rest of the squad is there to gain value from it. But 3 ults already spent here from Chimera. This is a sped up Cassidy rolling through with that Deadeye, and Psychoka cleaning up too with the latter stages of that ultimate. We are kicking up well towards 100% here. No one from invaders alive on the point. Possessive is just running rings on the outside. Chimera clean things up in 3-1 on Suravasa, and will take the series 3-0.
Wow, that was a dominant showing. I know you mentioned, beforehand how they were 3-0. They're both their previous 2 games, but actually seeing it here, I mean, it's a little bit different. The thing I'm most impressed with is how they're able to play it from behind, right? Because you look at this point in Sura, nothing's going their way. They get absolutely wiped out time and time again, but they take the inspired decision to swap over roles for the hit scan to flex DPS, and apparently there's all the pieces they need to just swap momentum, pending them back in their court. They steamroll over their opposition. And an incredibly dominant win taken there, especially in the latter stages of Suravasa. This is the team to beat, perhaps, in EU Open Tier. At least something that you've got to be careful of, because, I mean, the performance here, absolutely unimpeachable.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them struggle to make the first point here on Suravasa run their way, but once they got their feet under them, I mean, of course, we saw them have to flex, as you mentioned. But yeah, once they really had themselves under control, once they took that deep breath and were able to make Gardens swing in their favor, it really was unstoppable. That boulder just kept on rolling and rolling downhill, and unfortunately for invaders, they just kept getting flattened by it time and time again. And honestly, it was not solely the successes of Chimera, but honestly the missteps from Invaders that really clinched that one out in the end. But folks, we're going to go to a quick break here. We're going to have an interview on the other side with one of our players from the winning team here, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with an interview with one of our winners here on the side of EMC Chimera. It's Saikoka today here, one of our victorious DPS players here. So, first of all, Saikoka, welcome to it. I just want to start off with a question for you. You had a very dominant showing all the way through the series. We saw the cracks start to form at the very beginning of Suravasa. Can you tell us what was going on for you guys there on that first point of market?
I haven't played enough Overwatch recently to properly put time into Vendetta, essentially. So we try and avoid it as much as possible, but it was just not working. So I went it, and then my hit scan so graciously offered to swap around with me, which was a lot more comfortable. And then I think we got to start going really.
Yeah, that's about how I describe it, because once you guys made that swap, it did feel like all the momentum suddenly back on your side again. What I want to ask, though, is about your Circuit Royale setup, because Tracer and Circuit Royale is not very common. I understand you're a Tracer player, but how do you guys put together that strat? How does it feel to play? Why do you think other teams maybe don't play it so much?
Well, I keep misclicking the Tracer Blink perk, the new one with the extended blink.
Same. It's so annoying.
It is really annoying. But I played with it on first map, and I started to get the hang of it, and I started to get kills from it, just from being able to triple blink really far. So I kind of thought, well, long map, Tracer's got more length essentially to her, so I can kind of stretch around a bit more. And that kind of worked, but it was mostly because I wanted to avoid Genji because I dashed into multiple walls. So, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, secondly, I want to say, you obviously, you guys kind of struggled on your attack towards the end of Circuit. What do you think the problem was there, if any, and would you do anything different if you could approach it again?
I think, so I got to a blade, and I kind of didn't want to swap because I had it. Roll back to my previous blade. I think if I swap Tracer, and we can put some more pressure on the point, that's a lot easier, I think, because rather than us having to walk into 5 people and high, they'd have to drag someone to point. I'd rather have been on Tracer there, I think, earlier on, actually.
Yeah, just for the final one I have for you. So we've seen your team especially favoring this Orisa composition when it's available. Is that sort of like the most comfortable composition you guys roll out with here? Or are you just really not favoring that Zarya Vendetta comp?
It's the Vendetta, because I haven't played enough of it. It's just not rolling for us. Jake's really good, our tank Jake. He's really good at every tank. He's really good at Orisa especially. But if I was good enough at Vendetta, we would probably be playing the Zarya, but I'm just not, so yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, before we let you go, anyone you want to drop a thanks to or shout out?
So, Ton always plays really well when his girlfriend's nearby, and she was. So, he really popped off, especially right at the end of Circuit. He just came back and killed everyone pretty much, and we managed to win. So, shout out to Ton's girlfriend.
All right, you'll love to see it. Thanks again for joining us, Saikoka. Congrats on the win, and good luck in the next series.
Thank you.
All right, well, Spectrum, we got to see an inside look at exactly how that sausage was, splattered and then recased, I think, before things cleaned up. Sausage was made, going for a different one.
I don't think I've heard this metaphor before.
Sorry, it's just the unfortunate amount of American metaphors that I use that I realize have no basis anywhere else, so... All right, but yeah, honestly, really good to hear that was just a minor hiccup, but the fact the team, was so able to just set themselves right by a minor switch of role and just were able to light things up once again.
Indeed, yeah. I'm just so impressed by what we're seeing. I think obviously Saikoka played well, and thanks to him for the interview. But I think just the entire team played as such a strong unit from Chimera. I think that was one of the big differentiating factors. I know I spoke on Sura about the alt economy. I know I spoke about on the circuit about how sometimes the invaders weren't so structured. But I do think adding some of that structure, some of that scaffolding into the play would really elevate invaders and have made this a much closer game. So that's something they can maybe look towards ahead of their week 3 and 4 games. Obviously, mid-season after that. So they're still got some time to contest for it. So hopefully it's in their mind still.
We'll have to catch up with that in the next time they find themselves on stream. But folks, that's going to do it for us for now. There is, of course, some NA games coming later on this evening here. But for you, that'll do it for us for today until tomorrow. So thank you all for joining us so very much. Until next time, we will see you in CGL.